And I think we are live. Super. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our event. I'm your host, Madalina Andrei, GMS, former Global Mobility Coordinator and currently Provider Relationship Manager with Xpath Global. For those of you not yet familiar with Xpath Global, we are the first SaaS-enabled marketplace digital ecosystem in the global mobility sector. Leaving aside what might be possibly two technical terms like SaaS and digital and marketplaces, to put it in plain English, we are the first e-commerce platform in global mobility sectors that enables the direct relationship between local experts providing specialized services such as immigration, taxation, destination, social security services, and corporate clients in need of those services in all corners of the world. This e-commerce platform is backed by a tracking platform that allows both sellers and buyers to be on top of their orders, their sales, their processes on the whole, tracking the progression of cases, and so much more. This is our sixth live event. I have my new equipment all prepared. From the Xpath Nexus series, a series which has as main goal to become a place where we can share our best practices in our industry, learn from each other, and most importantly, grow together. This episode is aimed at corporate client perspectives, and as usual, we have a maximum 30 minutes to cover with attention-grabbing questions and answers on global mobility matters. And my honored guest today is Sangitha Shetty. She's the General Manager of Global Travel and Mobility with Tata Communications. Almost 7 years in this role now, and over 15 years of experience in the past with like top management positions, tackling immigration, travel, global mobility in general, vendor management, process engineering, requirements analysis, client management, and many more. In case extra details are needed on Tata Communications, the digital ecosystem enabler, let me tell you please that they are present in more than 200 countries and territories around the world. They serve over 7,000 customers globally that represent over 300 of the Fortune 500. They connect 4 out of 5 mobile subscribers worldwide. They connect businesses to 60% of the world's cloud giants. They operate the largest wholly owned and most advanced subsea fiber network, which underpins the internet backbone, where its network carries around 30% of the world's internet routes. And they are listed on both Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange of India. Thank you very much for watching us today. It will surely be an informative session, but enough of me and my talking. Good afternoon, Sangitha.
Hi, Madalina, and good afternoon to all, or good morning, good evening, whichever part of the time zone you are in. Correct. And thank you for having me here.
Thanks a lot, and thanks a million for accepting our invitation and for being our guest today. It's really a pleasure to have you by my side. I guess I will start with the elephant in the room, let's say, the pandemic. How did it affect Tata Communications, and specifically how did Tata Communications manage to stay on top of the crisis, to manage the crisis?
So to begin with, I guess the pandemic touched every one of us. And for us, because the employee safety is of paramount importance. With that in mind, I think for us, we had to look at how do we adhere to the government, the state government norms, the local compliances, etc. And like many other corporates, we adhered to that with the work from home policy, and only essential employees going into work. From a travel and mobility perspective, it was business critical travel that happened. And for us, this required us to continuously monitor the entry-exit bans that were in place, the quarantine and health requirements, the local compliance, etc., while we arranged the safe passage of our employees back to the home country. And we had to work extensively with the Ministry of External Affairs, the Director General of Civil Aviation, Indian missions and embassies across the globe while we worked on the repatriation of employees with their families, those who had completed the assignments or were waiting to come back, they couldn't because of the situation, the clampdown that happened across the world, right? And while we did this, we also had to work with our logistic partners to understand and drive home the safety, security, and hygiene factors that needed to be maintained. So this, I believe, is a hugely challenging situation for any corporate to work and deal with. And this is something that's ongoing. And for us in this dynamic space, ensuring that we get the information well beforehand and also keeping the employee informed is something that we have to regularly do.
Yeah. So it was like a joint effort throughout the entire period.
Yeah. And it is ongoing because the situation as it continues to evolve. It's something that we have to continue to work with and watch and see how the dynamics are changing and shifting around across the globe.
That takes me to my next question. So I can imagine being able to sustain and well to do whatever you needed to do to be on top of the crisis. A lot of monitoring was carried out, right? Various borders restrictions, quarantine, health requirements, exit entry bans, local compliances, national compliances. How did you manage to connect all these gaps, all these dots, and make sure you have correct and updated information and details? Because I can imagine all these information and details were coming from different sources and different entities and different parts, and it seems like a very, very complicated and difficult task to do.
So I guess we didn't have an option. So what we did was look at reliable sources. When we say reliable sources, a lot of information that's available on the social media platform. And that's not something that we wanted to look at. We went into the government websites. We looked at a lot of information that was available from our emergency risk assistance partner, from our attorneys, and we tried to collate all of that information that we were receiving. Understanding the compliance landscape, like I just mentioned a few minutes back, with the dynamic changes that were happening, was touch and go. And a lot of times we had to, hold on, and because the situation didn't open up for the employees to come back, we had to then take a decision based on approvals from the business of extending the employees' assignments on site. And in certain situations, work with the ministries or work with the embassies in hand and try and see how we could facilitate and how fast we could facilitate their return back to the home country. So I think this was a quite complex situation. There were some instances where, I think many instances, not some, where the employees' work permits were expiring with the skeleton staff that was available in most countries because of the pandemic. Trying to get renewals on board, I think it was also a difficult situation for most governments. Some of them came on board with the plan pretty quickly, where they said, for whatever purpose, up to 6 months, you could take it as a default extension. Some others, we had to reach out through our connects and try and get the extension done quickly, which again was a huge challenge. So we started monitoring and tracking and seeing that who all the resources whose assignments were coming up in the next 3 months. We looked at interims of 3 months, worked with our attorneys, worked with the governments, try and see how we could get their extensions done in a timely manner to ensure compliance. At the same time, to give a feeling of comfort to the employees, because a lot of them had families back home and they were worried with either their families falling sick, they wanted to be there, and how fast we could enable them to come back. So I think for me per se, maybe it was slightly relatively easier for us because I handle a dual role, both mobility and travel. So I didn't need to depend on an additional factor or a different support function to get some of the information. We knew instantly or immediately what we could do or we couldn't do, right? So I think that was one. And sharing the timely updates, not only with the business for them to better plan, but also for the employees, because for them, the fear was that would we be impacted while we're coming back, either in the transit lounge or in the aircraft, at the hotels where we do mandatory quarantine, etc. So how safe are we? What is the organization doing to ensure that the employee safety comes first? So I think a lot of that took a lot of time for us to juggle, understand the information, and put things in place.
Yeah, all together. Yeah, I know, Sangita, that for you, well, for Tata Communications, employee safety is one of the most important priorities, right? Yeah. During these difficult times, how did you manage to cater for the employee safety, the safety of their families? Obviously, a lot of them were having their families possibly with them, right, in their assignments. And how do you make sure that aside from, well, compliance, your policies are also aligned with in order to cater for this employee centricity?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, we as a Tata Group, we have a lot of our contracts with logistic partners where we've empaneled certain airlines and hotels. Our focus was only to go with them, right? Because we know that after we did the relative checks of safety, hygiene, secure measures, we were very clear that this is how they would manage our employees, passage and the stay. Likewise, for us, getting the employee to understand that we are going to ensure to the best possible extent that while we work with the governments to get their permits in place and extension of approvals, etc., we're going to ensure minimum risk exposure for them, right? So whether getting the
how exactly? Yeah.
Well, in certain instances, we had to engage with the emergency travel assistance partner, where they also facilitated getting them the RT-PCR test done in a safe hygiene conditions. Ensured that we changed the some of the clauses in our global travel policy, where we included the pandemic as a special clause where the employees could avail of all the expenses being reimbursed to them, which is associated with any expense that they had to meet for the pandemic in terms of the quarantine stay, the testing. I don't know whether they needed to spend extra baggage for their families to come back, etc. So all of that we inclusively put everything into the policy so that there wouldn't be a problem in future.
Yeah, to be covered.
Yeah, and I think we spent a huge amount of time trying to make the employees feel at home. It was more of a situation where empathy played a huge part. I think the way my team geared up, stepped in and made the employees feel the sense of comfort. It's like it's just your own family. If they were there, what would happen, right? Yeah. Reassure them, have huge amount of calls, any part or any time of the day, night, weekends, it didn't matter, right? It's that we are there for you.
Around the clock.
Yeah, around the clock. So I think we created WhatsApp groups, constantly engaged with them. And when they came back to India and did the quarantine, we ensured that the hotels gave them immunity booster medicine or concoctions, which are like typical of what we do in here in India to keep them safe and build immunity, whether it's 14 days or whatever it is. If somebody came back and said that, okay, this was not followed because there was a very strict protocol that the government gave, we spoke with the hotel because of the relationship that we had, and we said, please make it more comfortable. They have small children, they have elderly parents, and you need to do this, go the extra mile.
Yeah.
So I think that's something which really helped. The employees, felt
definitely.
Yeah.
Let's hope the extra mile efforts that everybody extended and they made will become regular practice, in the future. Hopefully,
it should. Because at the end of the day, Madeline, I firmly believe, when employees are being deputed, whether on business or on assignments, they're going for work, right? It's not a pleasure trip. It's not for tourism. So you need to ensure that you are taking care of them at the best possible way. That's it.
Yeah. Sangitha, talking about employee safety and all the efforts and all the hassle and all the madness that we've all gone through, is there any particular story that you have in mind that somehow stuck with you due to its urgency or its character of being unique story or something unexpected, something I don't know, important, let's say? Perhaps a special story with I don't know, a family or an employee with certain situations, complicated.
Also, we have many, but I think what sticks to my mind, is the Myanmar coup, which happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So one of my colleagues, he flagged it because he recollected when he had joined the organization a few years back, that there was some employees had come here on holiday and they'd gone back from Myanmar. So we reached out to all the employees, asked them first, are you safe, etc. And then we looked in the management and said, this is what the situation, these are people with their families right now on board. We had engaged with the client to understand what was the situation on the ground. And because there was just one flight initially that was, registered as an evacuation flight, everybody wanted to get obviously their staff on board first,
of
right?
course, of course. I want to be there.
Yeah,
everybody wanted to be there.
Yeah. So, to do the homework of reach out to the Indian High Commission, who to reach out to find out what's the situation on the ground, and then say, can we get our guys registered? Because the first thing you need to do in any country when you travel, register with the local mission. So we did all of that. And then we had to connect back with the client. There was a lot of pushback saying that, we can't let them go right now and the situation not so bad. I think we had a number of calls, and we had were yet to onboard the current partner as emergency travel assistance partner. We had sunsetted the previous partner. So we reached out to them, say, can you help? And they were really sweet. The contract was not even signed. We were still in the RFP stage. And they said, yes, we'll help you in whatever way possible. So trying to figure out that we need to do the RT-PCR tests, and there was some conflict of information from the mission saying that, okay, the Indian government said no need, it's an evacuation flight. 2 days later, they said no, it is required. Employees were scared to go because they lived in the expat area. They didn't want to cross the bridge, which was the prime area of the unrest. So we engaged with a partner to pick them up under armed escort, take them to the facility to do the RT-PCR test. Thereafter, once the date was finalized with the clients, okay, again engage with the partner, say pick them up, just when the barriers are lifted, get them to the airport with their luggage, etc., lock, stock, and barrel, and have them until they board, right? Getting the tickets itself was a big nightmare because the approval to allow them to travel from the client came on a Friday evening. Oh. And by then, the previous day, the embassy told me 127-seater, 84 seats gone. And Friday after, when I called, so sorry, the finalist has already gone to the Air India office. I'd again call and beg and please accommodate. It's just these many people. The airline does not work on a Saturday here in India. And then to say, how do you process all of it? Employees didn't have cash because the ATM banks, everything was shut. How do we arrange money? Yeah, how do you arrange money and how do you manage things? I think we leveraged our relationship with the airline over the last so many years that we've had. They agreed to very kindly allow us to make the payment in India. Yeah, and there again, it was a nightmare because this business didn't have a center in Delhi to get this facilitated. We had to reach out, and then at the last minute, I think about an hour before the airline office shut down, the person rushed to get the tickets paid for and issued over the weekend, and then have these employees picked up through armed escort. And they wanted to go 5 hours earlier, 6 hours earlier. They just wanted to ensure they were not stuck when the unrest started again. I think till the flight took off, we were not sure they're going to be on the flight, right? Yeah. They had elderly parents who had come visiting on holiday and got stuck. There were small children. There was an employee who had to manage how they could, give their pet away to somebody living there because the airline said we cannot take pets back with us. So until they landed in India, we really didn't know with the military situation if they would be allowed to board the flight or not. And after they arrived here, it was a huge sigh of relief. Yeah. And like my manager said, when the military takes over, you never know when they just clam down and say there's no flights going to be allowed into or outside the country. And look at the situation in Myanmar now. Yeah. It's been consistently spiraling out of control, right? So I think we took immediate steps. We were not sure whether it's going to happen, but I think we dealt with the whole thing with military-like precision. So I think it was the right solution and the right decision. Yeah. And the employees were hugely relieved and thankful back home. And so that's one story which I think sticks. Unfortunately, well, one great story with great outcome. But unfortunately, I think there are
thousands of stories like that that we'll never forget. You know,
Yes.
these 1.5 years have been very,
True.
very difficult. Yeah. Sangita, like a more general question I would have right now. So given all the situation with the pandemic and everything, and having in mind the usual and traditional types of assignments that, well, we deal with, like short-term assignments, long-term assignments, business trips, simple business trips, secondments, whatever. Do you see any changes in that? Do you well, on a it would be your personal opinion if you believe things will change after this pandemic, like a significant decrease in business trip, significant decrease in short-term assignments, or an increase in long-term assignments, or vice versa, or whatever?
So in my view, it's my personal view,
Yeah.
I think everything revolves around the bilateral relations that the countries have between themselves, which is largely driven by how the COVID is being handled or managed in that country. I think the faster the countries get their employees, and not employees, their citizens vaccinated, and I believe like the travel pass has been launched recently in the Western world. Something similar has come up in Singapore and Japan. It's going to be a situation when things are safe for people to travel, that borders will open up, right? There may be a little bit more time that we would need to spend in all of this. But I don't know, I truly believe that not everything can be done remotely, right? And I think the pandemic has shown that maybe short term, yes, it works to do things remotely. But wherever you need to have a support that is done on the ground, right? There would be travel. There would be employees going on long-term or mid-term assignments. But how do we manage that in this situation? Will all play, I think, key to what the government's rules and regulations would be at that point in time. So, and I think just like how UK has opened up, maybe Brexit impact was one of the primary reasons. But I feel personally, my view that they are opening it out for people across the globe, skill sets, who could apply for a job sitting remotely. The good part is opening up for even students. You've completed your Cambridge level syllabi, A levels. You can join any organization in the UK. With the salary range open up to incorporate even the students, right? So I think that's a good move, and that is something which most governments also should consider.
Should
right?
think about.
Yeah, it's absolutely, because with the pandemic and the huge loss of lives, I'm really not sure to what extent. Barring India and China, where we have a huge population of young workforce, I think a majority of the countries in maybe Europe or UK or the US have been impacted, where the workforce is almost negligible now. And so you can't afford to say I'm protectionist and sorry, only employees from, your citizens from my country or the European Union, etc., are the only people who could be employed. No, you need to see and state that if a skill set is available, irrespective of nationality, just
irrespective of the region.
Yeah, irrespective of region or nationality, allow them to come and work. You can't afford to have the protectionist outlook anymore. So I would think if you're a futuristic leader, you just start thinking on those lines, right? The border becomes borderless, so to speak. Yeah. So it should be just driven by skill. That's it.
Excellent, Sangita. I know in some regions, due to local or regional specificities and specific criteria, other reasons, Tata Communications chooses local experts and professionals to support their business activities. On a very broad and general level, how do you make the selection of these local experts? What do they need to possess as professionals in order to be a good match for Tata Communications?
So, Madeline, are you referring to hiring of employees, or you're talking about?
No. like your local partners, local experts in terms of taxation specialists, social security specialists, immigration specialists in various parts of the world?
Yeah. So we rarely look at local experts, to be very honest, because I think our outlook at least was that we try and engage with a global partner wherever possible. We wanted a uniform methodology in how we operate. Secondly, I think the driving factor is that you need to have everything available on an automated platform. So you're able to track end-to-end life cycle of an employee's assignment. That being said, maybe in some areas like the Middle East and Africa, which are gray areas, and primarily because in some places it's driven by the need to have local, either GR or PR or etc. in place, we may be working with some local partners. There again, it is the region HR there who takes a decision because there is a payroll composition also which may come into place.
I think we lost Sangitha. Sangitha, can you hear me? Sangitha, can you hear me? Wait for a couple of seconds. We lost Sangitha, unfortunately. We had one more question. I promise I'll get that answered in writing. So we have to close like 3 minutes before, I guess, unfortunately. I would like to thank you very much for attending our event, for watching us. I'm thanking Sangitha a lot for taking the time to be with me today, and I guess I'll see you all in 2 weeks' time.